Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. In this video you'll see how I fulfilled my childhood dream. Also, this is the most difficult and longest project on my channel. For various reasons, it took me almost 3 months. Friends, brew some tea, make yourself comfortable, because we're starting. Let's go! Initially I planned the video to be about an hour long with a detailed narration and description, but I thought it would be better to compress it, and if anything I'll record the second part later. Although the video turned out not so long as intended, I still decide not to abandon the idea of dividing it into chapters. Also, for your convenience, I have created timecodes by which you can easily fast forward the video to the desired episode. Well, if you want to support the video and my channel, I ask you to watch the entire video without skipping. It took more than a month to create the racing cockpit. At the same time, I filmed the process. There is a lot of video material. When everything was filmed, it took me almost another month to find the inspiration and strength to sort through it all and ultimately to finally start editing this video. However, before I cold pause this video, I need to make a video about the competition, about buying the main whale and about buying the whale for the giveaway. When I sat down to edit, I realized that without a plan and script it will be very difficult. I spent so much time creating and filming not to release a regular video. Previously I had never written a plan or script, but here a serious approach was needed. So many foods that I had to filter them with a coffee strainer into necessary, unnecessary and form them into a logical chain. And most importantly, not to forget to tell anything. By the way, sometimes I will call this moving chair with a steering wheel a racing cockpit, and sometimes a racing platform. Now we have version 1.0. Well, you write in the comments what's better to call it. I had been nurturing the idea of this cockpit for a very long time. I always liked racing arcade machines in amusement park or entertainment center where you relax with your family or friends. But you understand, you can play much if you pay for it. It's another matter when you have it at home. It's like with a computer or game console in childhood. Remember how you wanted it to be not at friends or computer clubs, but at your home. But then you got it and calmed me down because you understood it was yours and wouldn't go anywhere. You couldn't play later whatever you wanted. Maybe I didn't appreciate it, but it warmed my soul 100%. I remember how many times I sold and bought back my PS2, PS3. Every time I booted, played until I got bored and sold it, thinking that I had played enough. When we have something, we don't really value it. When we lose something, we begin to miss it and immediately understand that we should value it and not give it away. You can always sell, but buying back? Well, I go too far off topic. In general, my first steering wheel appeared when I was about 20 years old. It's still with me, by the way, as a memory. Regular cheap steering wheel with a turning range of 9 and 3 o'clock. I even had a video about how I modified it for many turns using a reduction sprocket. Sounds cool, but in fact it was junk. In the end, I turned it into a gamepad. The video is also on the channel, but the project is unfinished. Maybe I'll get back to it someday. Of course, I will put links in the description for everything I mentioned in this video. Then I bought a Mad Cat steering wheel for PS2 for Gran Turismo 4. It was supposedly from '99, with the box and in new condition. It was simple steering wheel, like my first one, but the turning radius was a little bigger and it was made really cool and very well. You can Google it. Mad Cats was kind of like Razer. A cool gaming brand. Maybe it still exists. They specialize in manipulators, mouse, keyboard, gamepads, steering wheels. An interesting fact about this Mad Cat steering wheel was that it had a screen with tachometer, like a dashboard with buttons and dead zone adjustments. I hadn't seen anything like it at the time. And even now it's a rarity for steering wheels to have a display and control panel with adjustments, not through software in the system, console or computer, but directly on the steering wheels itself. There are such models, but their price is much higher than the one I am talking about now. Then I sold it and bought a Logitech Momo Racing. The legendary Logitech Momo Racing. I probably won't talk much about it. I've already done a review of it and I'll definitely leave a link. This was my first experience playing with a force feedback steering wheel, and although the turning angle is 240 degrees, I got great pleasure. And yes, we all know how easy it is to turn it into 900 degrees. I also released a video about this. I released the mod for YouTube, after which I returned it to its factory state. I played it and sold it to good hands because I needed to move on. A very cool steering wheel that will remain in my heart. By the way, I bought it again a year later to give it away to my Telegram channel subscribers. Details in the description under the video. Next, I bought an equally legendary steering wheel, the Logitech Driving Force GT. I won't talk about it either, I recently filmed a video about it. In short, the steering wheel has a rotation angle of 900, full support for all Gran Turismo, it has a full set of buttons, in fact it can be used entirely without gamepad. Of course, it's fully compatible with PC and has a proprietary utility for fine-tuning. Based on my personal experience, I can say that it's the same as the G2527 and G920. Because inside they are all the same, Logitech was lazy and did a restyling, changing the numbers in the name and prices. By the way, Logitech steering wheels are not getting cheaper, but are increasing in price. This probably applies to very related to sim racing. Everything has become very expensive, it seemed to me. Buying a steering wheel any model in perfect condition together with the box is a good investment. In this state it can be stored and one day sold at a profit. It's like buying old retro phones like the Nokia Engage. Then I learned about the steering wheel competition in Dirt 5, which was held by a good store. I had previously participated in their fast PC assembly competition. I realized that delaying the cockpit construction was no longer an option, because the competitions are also held in their store on a cockpit, and in the full steering range of 900 degrees. Once again, I draw your attention. Rally in 900 degrees steering wheel in full range. Not like we usually race in rally, setting a small turning radius, so you can quickly work with your hands. This is a very important point, because during training and later in the competition itself I had to learn how to turn the car, practically without using the steering wheel, that is turning with the gas. Even without the handbrake, I specifically trained myself to drive without the handbrake, because I didn't know if they would allow me to assign it to a button or not. In general, just in case, I trained myself to drive purely with gas and brake. And since I understood that I wouldn't be able to work with my hands as fast as needed, because this game is for gamepads. Well, you understand. You understand you can work your finger quickly on a gamepad. Turning the wheels from full left lock to full right lock with your fingers can be done very quickly. But on the steering wheel, a full turn to the left and a full turn to the right, no. You won't be able to do that. This is a very fast track and very technically difficult. You had to learn to turn with the gas. I've already released a very interesting short video about the competition, where I told how I boot a steering wheel for training to take first place and win a new Logitech steering wheel model. All links are in the description, of course. The cockpit itself is basically needed to get the steering wheel on the desk, because during active driving the vibration from the steering wheel transfers to the desk and monitor, creating parasitic image shocking. Also, don't forget that when the steering wheel is attached, it's impossible to work at the desk. It turns out that you lose the use of your desk and constantly have to attach and detach the steering wheel. If you detach it, you need to store it somewhere, either in a box on a shelf, well, if space permits. And in the case of a cockpit, you just disconnect the cable and roll the platform against the wall so it doesn't get in the way. That's the first point. The second is comfort and immersion while driving. Then you have a single platform where everything is already installed. Steering wheel, pedals, gear shifter, handbrake, possibly a remote with additional buttons for ETS or farming simulator. It takes you to a whole new level of gaming experience and provides a very strong immersion. And again, it's essentially a separate workstation that is narrowly focused on specific tasks and doesn't bother anyone. I will even say it's pleasing to the eye. So let's go back in time a bit, where I show you step by step what and how I did it. First, I made a cardboard mockup to understand the real dimension and visual assess how it would stand next to my computer desk. There were many options. In the end I came to this format, because it's a base. Later it will be possible to attach all sorts of components to it. The form is exactly like this, because I want it that way. Of course, you might write that it's a radically incorrect size and everything is wrong in general, but I want it this way because it's more comfortable for me. Moreover, it's better to start with larger cockpit, you can always cut off excess later. It will be problematic to retach it, plus the rigidity of the structure will be lost in that case. All initial sketches were written on a piece of paper, later I rewrote everything neatly and printed it out. Now you can see all the cut main components according to the drawings. The base consists of two layers, plus longitudinal stiffeners. There are practically all the fasteners that were used: corners, bolts, nuts, washers. Their type of bolts of different lengths. The diameter is the same, and also self-typing screws for fastening the plywood. All of them were used for the platform's base. Preliminary assembly was performed to ensure that the structure was assembled as intended, that the dimensions suit me, and I am happy with everything. After which it was completely disassembled for sanding and preparation for painting. I also bought rubber wheels. Even though they are small, they should easily bear the weight. Total 5 wheels, on in the front center. The total weight of the structure with the pilot is about 110 kilograms. That is a little more than 20 kilograms per wheel. Next, painting. Regular, cheapest black matte spray paint from a can. It soaked in very much. After the first can, I thought each time that the next can would be the last, but no. In total, 4 cans were used. If I had that the spray can would paint plywood so poorly, I would have just bought a can of paint and painted it with brush, which would have been even cheaper, but we learned from our mistakes. The base of the chair was taken from a regular household chair. Initially I thought of using it as a temporary solution, but in the end I decided to try reupholstering it with new foam and fabric. I reminded that the goal was to make it fast and expensive, because I needed to prepare for the competitions. I already had the foam and fabric, so I immediately started modernizing the old chair, which had been quite worn out by the cats. I ripped off all the fabric and bedding that was under the fabric. After that, I made many ventilation holes. In the future, I want to be able to turn on a fan with a button. The connection of all wooden parts was also regulated, and the new nails were driven in to fasten the structure. The final stage was painting the platform's base. I decided to paint only along the stiffeners, leaving the central part of the lacquered wood unpainted. Firstly, you won't have enough paint for this wood, and secondly, we can always paint it later if needed. I had thoughts of later covering this area with carbon fiber film. As I said at the beginning of the video, this is the first version. At this stage I can say that the first version is ready. Of course, you can write in the comments what else needs to be done, redone, and that the sitting position is not racing, and that the steering wheel has a wrong tilt, and that crossbar are need to reduce steering column shake. Guys, I understand everything perfectly. For this reason I said that is the first version. I have many ideas of what can be redone, what can be finished, and what new thing can be added. Firstly, I was doing this for the first time and on a tight schedule to have time to practice before the competitions. Secondly, I adjusted the seat position by eye. There was no one to help hold the parts for fitting. For this reason, many unnecessary holes were made because I changed the seat position several times. In the end, I arrived at this seat position. It seemed comfortable to me. I didn't want to make it lowered because it would be inconvenient in front of the TV or computer desk. I oriented myself by height as if I were sitting at my computer. But not in my chair, but in the cockpit. I only moved the monitor a little closer to me, but otherwise it's a very useful format. Especially comfortable sitting for track simulators and off-road driving. In the future, I want to do the following. First, make the steering column a little lower. Second, make it possible to change the steering wheel angle up and down for a sports car or a truck. Third, add the ability to change the height and recline of the seat. 4. Add the lateral support for the back and legs. 5. Add retractable armrests, because during long track hauls the neck gets tired due to the weight of the arms. 6. Add additional crossbar to the steering column. 7. Create mounts for the gear shift and a button block for additional function. ETS2 lovers know how many functions a track has and that the keyboard is not enough and it's also inconvenient. Then there's a separate block of button with label or designation for the function they perform. It's really cool. As you can see, there's still work to be done here, and version 2.0 is not far off. But before that, I would like to experiment and buy an automotive gearbox or at least an automatic transmission, assemble it and adapt it for ETS2. I'll check the prices. I have already found several options from BMW, Audi and Ford. I'm going to adapt it using Hanold on using gamepad or parts from Hanold steering wheel. Thus, when a certain gear is selected, a certain button will be pressed, pre-recorded in the system as this or that action. Of course, it will be simpler and most importantly, cheaper to buy a ready-made H pattern shifter specifically for car simulator. But I love creation, something with my own hands, and I'm interested to see what comes out of it. Plus, it's material for the channel, and I hope it will be interesting to you. In general, it will be an experiment, and in the end I will also raffle it off or sell it. We'll see based on the activity or views of the video about it. In the end, I can say that it was a very cool experience for me and I was very interested. And most importantly, it was pleasant to watch how truth and ideas in my head transformed a pile of junk into something functional and beautiful. This is my vision of a chair for car simulators, with the possibility of complete disassembly and transformation, into which I put my love and soul. I hope you enjoyed the video, the editing, the music, and of course the work I put in on creation the Cockpit by Kush TV. Sometimes it's so hard to say goodbye that it's easier to avoid it. It's just this video was planned to be the final one on the topic of car simulators, but one day we'll return to this. Thank you very much for watching. Also watch my other videos, subscribe to the main and additional channels. Instagram, Telegram, TikTok, Twitch, all link in the description on pinned comment. I hope to see you soon. Good luck and bye. If only I had the steering wheel and cockpit 10-15 years ago, I wouldn't get off it for days. Yeah, okay. Off to work. A small bonus content for those who watch it until the very end. First for all, thank you very much. Secondly, how the initial intro was made, which lasts for the first minute, with a greeting and then it goes to music. The intro is a total of 1 minute and 20 seconds. Guys, it was all done manually. It was very difficult. I read it a dozen times. You wouldn't believe how much different material was used there. Just look here. It all flashes by so fast. It feels like these are just some ready-made present, or like programs where you upload a video and it automatically mixes it to music for you. No, guys, I sat and did it all myself. Look at these different pieces. Here, basically, what was done. These are video transitions, basically nothing special, just transitions between certain moments of video segments. Mostly it's all manually done. Effects such as running and flying the camera forward and backward. Absolutely everything was done manually. The only thing is that music from one video was used. They were what inspired me. And here I used various interesting moments. For example, 2 frames simultaneously, and this film strip in the background. Here in this shoot you can see the original material from that video. I don't think anyone would have noticed it, but those who watch and those who know the Maticar Mods channel, Australian guys, cool. This video is 10 years old and it's the final outro. About a cool car, how they modified an old Golf. They gave it rust on the body, lowered it, invested 100 or 200 bucks, I don't remember exactly anymore, and just made a very cool final drive to this song. They inspired me. And there are moments this film strip, that's where it's from. I overlaid their film strip with my own footage. Here on the right is the original frame, and on the left is part of the body of this Golf. Look how many frames, huge number. And this is the first minute. This is film strip, 2 frames at the same time. I read it many times. Then I thought, damn, no one will appreciate it. Why are you sturking, dude? No one will appreciate it. Most likely. This flying caption with arrows. I reshot many times. Overall, it looks cool. Maybe you'll appreciate it. That's how it is. If you like it, if it was interesting to learn the details of the creation, behind the scene filming, I have a lot of that. A lot of different material that is used during filming, various lamps for video lighting, cool stuff. Now I'll give a brief overview. Only for you. This thing is called honeycomb. It's a directional light. Maybe I'll do review. I have a lot of that. This thing is honeycomb. What do you do? You put over the lamp that's on a tripod. I mean video light. On top you put this box with special holes. It should be black. I didn't have time to paint it. So that the light has a precise beam and doesn't reflect off the walls. Such a thing. It goes on top of the lamp. And purely directional light. It is needed so that the walls remain unit. Spot soft light with diffusion. At the same time the room remains dark. Cool thing. That's it. The room remains absolutely dark without changes, but at the same time the person's face is lit. This is achieved by using such a lamp. These honeycombs are put on different lamps. Well, I made it quickly, maybe later I'll buy a ready-made version. This recording somehow broke off and I couldn't restore it, unfortunately. In principle you haven't lost anything. And so this is a project that turned out. About 100 gigabytes and 150 files and 20 folders, if I am not mistaken. This project contains. These files waited almost 6 months for their editing, since the beginning of filming. I hope you like it, this directorial behind the scenes comments. I couldn't have not shown this bonus material, but I wanted to. I think it's cool to show something like this at the end of the video. This is what the editing of the video you are watching right now looks like. Here's also by height, down, up. You can also zoom in and examine it in more detail. Such an interesting project, probably the most difficult editing for me. Actually, the difficulty is not in the editing, but in the number of files invited in this project. The longer I delayed, the harder it was morally to get to it. Then waiting the project a week, a month, 2 months. You kind of forget the idea, the meaning and what you wanted were. You have to delve in and figure it out. This is the video that turned it out. I hope you like it. Don't forget to comment, like. I've already said it, but it won't hurt to remind you. That's it guys, thank you for your support. Watch other videos. That's it, we're not saying goodbye. See you soon. Good luck and bye.